Good people of YouTube, I'm the Watch Idiot, and this watch, the Seiko Shogun, is the most underrated and often most forgotten Seiko diver out there. I absolutely love Seiko divers. I've owned and still own a bunch of them, and I love titanium. I've owned and still own quite a few, including my favorite watch, the Tudor Pelagos. But despite my love for Seiko and titanium watches, I never got around to trying out the Shogun, which is a titanium Seiko diver. So in this video, I'm going to get into all the details on the dial, how it wears on the wrist, the case, all that good stuff, because there is a lot of good stuff about this watch that I never would have expected. And also, I have to thank Exquisite Timepieces for sending in this watch for review. I'm going to be sending it back shortly, but yeah, if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have just gone out and bought this watch on my own because I had my doubts about it. But now that I have it with me, I am just like so tempted by this watch, and oh man, I really want it now. So yeah, let's I'll get into all that and why I want to actually get it. So yeah, let's get into it. First things first, let's do the dimensions as always, because the numbers on paper and the feel in real life are not the same. The lug is technically 50.9 millimeters and the case width is 43.9 millimeters, but pretty much like all Seiko divers out there, it wears much smaller than those numbers would suggest. The lugs curve down really well, which minimizes the long lug to lug, and then the bezel width is 42 millimeters, and that's actually what you see on your wrist. So that all that stuff, plus it being only 12.7 millimeters thin, it just makes for a really comfortable watch that wears much smaller. For the longest time, I didn't bother with this watch because of the dimensions, but you know, I'll just say that if you can wear an SKX, you'll most likely also be able to wear this watch. And of course, you do have to bear in mind the longer lug to lug, but if this is just a little bit over your sweet spot, which I imagine it will be for a lot of people, I would say just still try to give it a go if you really like it, because you'll be surprised. Okay, so next I'm gonna try to explain what I'm thinking, what's going on in my head, because when I wore the Shogun for the first time, I felt like I was wearing a brand new Seiko that I've never experienced in any way before. Other Seiko divers that I absolutely love, like my SKX, the Willard, the Marinemaster, the 62 Mass, are all undoubtedly iconic watches within the watch world. Take the logo off the dial and you still instantly know that it's a Seiko, and that's absolutely amazing. Wearing those watches makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside because I know exactly what to expect because they're just so Seiko. The Shogun, on the other hand, when I put it on my wrist for the first time, it was a surprise and a completely new experience because I personally haven't seen a Seiko dial like this on my wrist before, and I haven't worn a Seiko case quite like this either, and the fact that this is my first ever titanium Seiko watch makes this that much more unique, but still there's just that Seiko essence to it which makes me feel comfortable. Now onto the case and bezel, and yeah, if you want to get a sense of a grand Seiko for less while getting a titanium dive watch for an amazing price, then this is it, because the case finishing and transitions are amazing. I wasn't expecting this, especially because other Seikos at this price point have really good solid finishing, but just nothing compared to this one. The brush surfaces are finely done and have a very even sheen to them, and then the polished accents are well placed and they just add a little bit of spice to the case. Just the, you know, bevels running along the top of the case and then the extra polished section in between the lugs, which looks so cool because they easily could have left this part out, but instead they set it just below the top edge of the case and curved it down as well, so it's not very noticeable most of the time, but when you do see it, it is really cool, and it's even cooler knowing how hard it is to polish titanium in the first place. So good job, Seiko. And actually, it's because of this case, along with the other details, that I think the Shogun is worth its price more so than Seiko's other 1K-ish SPB divers. And this is coming from someone who has 2 of them and wants more of them. Next up is the bezel, and the bezel online looks very brown, bronzy, and that turned me off from the watch from the start because I would want this sort of watch to have no major colors, but in real life it's very much just gray. And I mean, I suppose there is just like the slightest bit of warmth to it, maybe, but that's the same sort of warmth that you would find in titanium as a metal, which for me is perfect. And beyond that, if this watch had a full black bezel, I don't think I would have been as enamored with it, because on top of it being striking for the case color, shape, finishing, and the dial, having this gray bezel just brings it all together for me. So as a package, this is a very special watch, and it hits me in a way that no other Seiko has ever hit me before. Oh, and in terms of bezel click feel, it's exactly what you would expect from a Seiko, but weirdly enough, it doesn't feel light and tinny, which is something that a lot of titanium bezels end up feeling like. So yeah, good job, Seiko. Let's listen to it right now. And now onto the dial, and it's what you would expect from Seiko, except just somehow better. The matte black dial just feels better than other black matte dials at this price point, and the indices just work so well because they complement the sharpness of the case without looking cartoony or overbearing, considering the seriousness of a titanium tool dive watch. And then there's the date window with the Cyclops, which is gonna be very divisive. And yeah, I could do without the Cyclops, although I always end up getting used to it, as I kind of have with this one over here. But actually my main issue is that this has a color matched date wheel, which sounds really weird for me to say it because it's usually a good thing. So yeah, the color matched date window here just doesn't work for me because the black disc is showing up as a blank gap within the visual flow of the 12 indices. Had it been white, it would have looked and felt like there was a 3 o'clock marker where a 3 o'clock marker should be. You know, if you look at my Captain Willard, for example, the watch visually flows because there's a white square or a rectangle in all the 12 spots, whether it's an actual lume marker or if it's the date window at 3. So onwards, the handset is fantastic because it continues with the sharp triangular motif, which makes for a very legible handset, and it manages to pack in quite a bit of lume, which can sometimes be a challenge for our hands. And we have a classic Seiko shovel seconds hand, and I thought it was the same as the other SPBs within this price point, but it's actually a little bit different because the bottom part is not a circle, so props to Seiko for making that little change. So yeah, the entire handset is unique to the Shogun as far as I know, which is really nice to see, you know, considering how much Seiko tends to share parts amongst its lineup. And since this is an SPB diver, it's got the classic half polished, half brushed finish on the hands, which is something that will never get old for me. I've loved it ever since I saw it the first time on the SPB143 and then on my Captain Willard, and then the upcoming Steelmaster 200 that I'm going to review later on. And then there's the rose gold seconds hand, which is cool conceptually, but I'm just not sure if it's necessary or even if it fully works here. I really like the matte gold hand on my Marinemaster 300 because it's muted and it matches the gold writing. Here it's kind of neither, and given how modern and stealth the entire watch is, this random shiny bit of rose gold, you know, just doesn't really make any sense to me. And had the bezel been fully brown or bronze, it might have worked, but just the way it is right now, I don't know. But the other version with the white dial doesn't have this issue, and that one is just really pulling me in quite a bit. So actually, if I had to put my money down right now and buy one of these right now, it would be a really super tough choice because the white dial version doesn't come with the bracelet, but that might not be an issue, you know, as I'm gonna get into right now, but also could be an issue. And now onto the bracelet, and I can't speak to the bracelet as much as I would want to over here because unfortunately I wasn't able to size it and wear it on the wrist since this is a actual watch from Exquisite Timepieces. But from the time that I have been able to see it and I did wear it on my wrist for a while, I did get a sense that this is gonna feel really great on the wrist because it feels light, which is something I love about titanium watches, but more importantly, it feels really solid. And a big part of that solidity is because it's got single piece links, which means they're one solid piece, which for a titanium bracelet is a good thing. Cheaper titanium bracelets can often feel a little jingly and tinny because of the way they move around, but that won't be the case over here because of those single piece links. Some people might see that as a negative, but I like the way they feel because they're also really, really comfortable on the wrist because they don't have all the extra seams where your wrist hair can just get caught in. Other than that, I'm a big fan of this angled look. It just has a different feel compared to just all the other oyster style bracelets out there, and it matches really nicely to the case hands and indices. And yeah, it's just a really thoughtfully done unique bracelet for a unique watch. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I just really wish that I was able to wear this fully on the bracelet sized, but if you are looking at the white dial version, you're not gonna have that problem because it comes on that really, really awesome vented rubber strap that I have on my Marinemaster 300. And yeah, that strap is amazing and super comfy. So yeah, there you have it. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the Shogun and if you think it is the most underrated Seiko diver out there. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and subscribe button and all the good buttons. And until the next video, good day.